Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. Each episode will bring you in-depth discussion with experts, community leaders, and analysts who will share their insights, experiences, and predictions. From local elections to global diplomacy, we'll provide you with the tools and perspectives you'll need to navigate today's real-world landscape.
Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. I'm Lisa Chafee.
I'm Josh Cease.
I'm Michael Nash.
Gentlemen, how are you today?
I'm okay. I'm recovering from Easter. I'm still finding candy wrappers buried in couch cushions and so forth.
Do you guys do the boiled eggs to hide, or do you hide plastic eggs?
Well, it's more about the plastic eggs end up with the money in them from Mr. Easter Bunny, and then the kids kind of get them that way. But it's just, it's a lot of fun. Also, whoever came up with the idea of that little plastic grass should be beaten with a wet noodle, because
Agreed.
that stuff gets everywhere, all over the house. I'm finding it in my bathroom somehow. Like, what is going on?
No, what's worse is the bubblegum grass. It looks like grass, but it's bubblegum. It's nasty.
Oh.
Utterly disgusting, yeah.
Yeah, well,
but
that sounds sticky.
I digress. We have Bob Clegg on the line. Sir, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. So are you still finding Easter eggs in your place?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Easter candy here. So we got some leftovers going on.
Well, you got some grandkids and so forth, Bob. I mean,
No, Josh, I just became a grandfather yesterday.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
congratulations.
That was the rumor mill.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, congratulations, and I hope mom and baby and everyone are happy and healthy right now.
Everybody's doing great, and mom's doing great. Dad, who's my son, Dominic, he's doing great,
Excellent.
And the little baby Luca is doing great. So,
that is awesome.
Wonderful. Nothing better than a new baby.
That's great, Bob. It's been there's a lot going on, and Lisa and I were talking this earlier this week, and this is why we wanted to have you on, because there's so many different things we want to cover, Lisa, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Bob, you're so well versed in everything. You track the money, where's the money going, which kind of tells you where the momentum's going. You do have clients that you strategize for, that you help run campaigns for. So we thought we would pick your brain a little bit about a bunch of stuff. So Lisa, I'll let you take it away. Where do you want to start?
So let's start. The last time we had you on, Bob, you were actually at the Delaware County GOP endorsement meeting where things went a little haywire and they kicked people out of the gallery, and Melanie Leneghan did not get endorsed, and since then
she did not.
She has gone to the Board of Elections, and last Friday, April 10th, the Board of Elections in a 2-1 vote said she is not a resident of Delaware County and can no longer be on the ballot. However, she's filed an appeal to the Ohio Supreme Court.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there was a complaint by Velva Dunn, who's a Delaware County committee woman. She actually beat Melanie a few cycles ago for that central committee seat in the Wedgwood area of Powell.
Mm-hmm.
So Velva knows Melanie very well. And Melanie, it all began last January of 2025, when Melanie and her husband sold her home in the Wedgwood area of Powell, okay? At the time, we heard rumors that they were moving to South Carolina, where one of her daughters was in school. And that was that. Well, then the next thing you know, she's been appointed to the Delaware County Board of Elections.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And in doing so, she got appointed either a couple days before or a couple days after they sold her house. Okay? So, I know that the one board member that supported her, Steve Kuckler, said last week in the vote that, well, the Secretary of State's office, checks these people out when they're appointed since his office didn't raise any red flags at the time. It must have been okay. Well, she had just sold her home. So, they didn't have that. It was probably still on the auditor's website as owned by Melanie and her husband, because they don't update that quickly. So I don't think that was valid. But anyway, she gets appointed to the board. She lists an address on Rambling Brook Way, which is somewhere in Powell. I don't even know where it's at. And she used that as her address throughout 2025. And she voted both in our May primary last year and our November general election last year. Well, come to find out, when the hearing was held, they subpoenaed the two owners, the husband and wife that own that house on Rambling Brook Way, and the wife testified via Zoom, and she was asked, how many nights did Melanie stay at your residence during 2025? And the woman seemed to not want to answer it. And they told her, you're going to have to answer the questions that you're asked. And she finally said there were 0 nights that Melanie actually slept at that home. So obviously it was just an address she used to, still keep herself a registered voter in Delaware County. Well, then early this year, she moves in with Cathy Nelson, a friend of hers over in the Genoa Township area, and uses that address for her filing for State Central Committee reelection. And then when all this started heating up a couple weeks ago, all of a sudden, Melanie is listed on the title of that house that Cathy Nelson had. Well, the problem was that when they were talking to the lady that owned the Rambling Brookway home, and then they talked to Melanie herself, Melanie had to admit that she really hadn't spent much time in Delaware County last year, and she had some kind of an illness. She had taking care of her mother. She had work, traveling for work. But her whole argument was, well, my intention was to live in Delaware County and live at those specific addresses, even though she really hadn't. And, when all the testimony was said and done, they voted 2-1. The two Democrats voted that she was not legally a resident of Delaware County. So therefore, her candidacy for reelection to the State Central Committee was invalid. She's not on the ballot. Now, what that means about her board seat is another matter, but I think that's going to mean she can't sit on the board either, because you have to be a registered voter in Delaware County to be a member of the County Board of Elections. But she appealed. I think it's going to be tough because the Supreme Court is the entity that told the Delaware County Board of Elections they had to have this hearing.
Yeah, because they tried to recuse themselves.
Yeah, they had earlier, both Democrats recused themselves. Obviously, Melanie couldn't participate, so that just left Steve Kuckler, the one Republican member, and you don't have a quorum.
Right.
So the court recognized that and said the two Democrats must sit on this. They must have a hearing. They must make a decision. So the Democrats did, and to their credit, I feel they came up with the right decision. It's going to be tough for that Supreme Court. Now, Melanie has appealed to that Supreme Court, our Supreme Court, but it's going to be tough for the court to say, hey, we want you guys to hold this hearing and make a decision, and then turn around and say, yeah, but you didn't make the right decision. I mean, I think the court's not going to do that, but who knows?
Well, I know the Secretary of State's office has made a statement that they are waiting to hear what the Supreme Court says before they make a move on removing Melanie or not.
Well, I can see why they might wait to do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole point of this is she served as a member of the board throughout almost the whole year last year when she wasn't a valid registered voter in Delaware County.
So would that
I don't know how you can keep somebody like that on.
Well, and here's another question that I have. So her bestie, Cathy Nelson, and another woman, Janine Baker, also pulled petitions to run for that same state central
seat. And there's a third friend, Angela, somebody, I think.
And
there's a third one.
And Melanie circulated their petitions. Well, you can't circulate somebody's petition if you're not a resident of that county. So does that invalidate their petitions?
Yeah, good point. I got to believe that because, she wasn't a valid registered voter in Delaware County when she did that.
Bob, I don't understand. What is, if you're not spending time in Delaware County, right? Okay, you've sold your home. It sounds like, you're kind of a fish out of water. What is she fighting for? Like, what is she fighting to stay on? And where is her time? If she's not in Delaware County, what is she doing? And how can she be so aware of what's going on in Delaware County if she's not even spending time in Delaware County? I just don't understand what her fight, what is she holding on to? Because it sounds like she doesn't really want to be in Delaware County.
Well, she doesn't want to be in Delaware County, but she wants to be able to dictate what goes on in Delaware County for the Republican Party in Delaware County. And that's the whole thing. Here's a woman, and I've known her and about her for years. Our daughters played soccer together for a while. And she was our Liberty Township trustee, and that's where I live, in Liberty Township here in southern Delaware County. And she almost, ruined our township. She tried to get rid of our EMS, our fire department. And I mean, she was so bad at that job that she didn't even run for re-election because she knew she wasn't going to win. And if you look at her votes for State Central Committee over the years, she always loses the Powell Liberty Township area. So this is the one thing she can run for, State Central Committee, and she can win. But she always loses Delaware County, but she always wins the outlying counties by a bigger margin, so she ends up winning election for it. And her ego is just so big that I guess this is something that gets her off, being a member of the State Central Committee and a member of the Board of Elections. And, she's been part of the party that's been trying to take over for the last 15 years. And they finally were able to 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So this is part of enjoying the spoils of victory, I guess. To me, it must be narcissism on a level I'm just not familiar with, Bob. Gosh, we're talking about politics. Who's attracted to politics?
Yeah.
Narcissist.
Who wants to run for office?
Narcissist.
I say narcissistic elitism.
I always think people that want to run for office have a personality flaw that can only be filled by the mass approval they get from elections.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to remember that. That's actually pretty. You didn't happen to take psychology in college as well, did you, Bob?
No. That was more observation over a lot of years of working in politics with a lot of different politicians.
Well, and here's what Melanie's doing now. She's playing the victim, and she actually said, "quote This was a witch hunt, and I was no different than a black man in the South going up against the KKK." Unquote.
Well,
she just
that
compared
tells
herself.
You all you need to know about her mental state. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, she's deranged,
well,
and I don't know where she pulled that comparison out of, but it's nowhere in the ballpark with that.
Yeah,
but
and I know that the chairman for Knox County, GOP has issued her a cease and desist letter because
Yes, he has.
Yeah, you want to explain that one?
Well, they got sent out. Melanie sent out a campaign mailer from one of her fake PACs, and she did this in previous cycles to the point where the General Assembly passed a law forbidding people to use these fake PACs in campaigns, because it's like the Knox County GOP for you PAC. And it sounds like, it's Knox County Republican Party. Well, no, it's not. But they try to come up with names that are very similar to the county party name so that people would think, she's endorsed by Knox County. Well, Knox County actually has endorsed Rebecca Norris. And so Fred Daly, the chairman, saw it was one of Melanie's fake PACs, and got an attorney to issue a cease and desist order citing the law that was passed that made the use of these PACs illegal. If that all makes sense.
Is there? I mean, Bob, as I sit here and we were kind of laughing about the narcissism of politicians and so forth, but there's no way she can salvage a political career here anymore. I mean, she has burnt every single bridge there. I mean, she invented bridges to burn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, she believes she's doing God's work.
Yeah, she does. You are correct. She does do that. Okay. And I mean, once again, I put that in the category of using the Lord's name in vain.
Correct.
Because, I mean, she's not doing that because of any strong belief she has. She says that because she thinks that's what she can do to get people to vote for her, to like her, or it's a political tool for her. Her religion is a political tool. That tells you a lot about her and her value system, her ethics, and anything else.
She prays. She does
pathetic.
that.
I mean, it's amazing that you would go to this length for this little crumb of a state central committee post. She
uses religion to manipulate people who necessarily aren't and I don't want to talk down to anybody, but people who maybe just don't have a certain political IQ, the way we're junkies. Lisa's a junkie, I'm a junkie, Mike's a junkie, you're a junkie. I mean, this is what we do.
People aren't into this. Yes, I get that. And she tries to appeal to them not through politics but through religion.
Right.
I mean, how low can you go? But she keeps digging.
Yeah, well, and it's more of a mess than what people realize, because now we have, there were 11 people subpoenaed to testify in her hearing, and only two.
That's another issue.
Yeah, only two showed up. One of them, Cathy Nelson, didn't show up. She's on parole. That's a parole violation. She had a arrest and conviction for DUI with a weapon in the car. But the other one is State Representative Brian Lorenz.
Yes.
Okay. So Brian, I know for a fact, is claiming he did not receive the subpoena. I spoke to the Delaware County Board of Elections. The subpoena was delivered, two of them, one copy to his house, one copy to his office by the Sheriff's Department. Now, to me, I find this very disconcerting because, number one, Melanie talked him into trying to get a bill passed that would allow Board of Election members to attend meetings remotely. Then when it all blew up, he introduced legislation to prevent Board of Election members from serving on State Central Committee. And now he goes and ignores a subpoena. What's the ramifications for him, do you think?
Well, I mean, all the people that didn't show up that were subpoenaed, and not only those two, but also Melanie's husband and her two daughters, are being referred to the county prosecutor's office for whatever they want to do. I mean, it's a violation to ignore a subpoena. And, Brian's going to have to answer to that. He himself has a primary going on right now. And I don't think it's going to be very helpful to him.
Hey, Bob, I want to kind of start pulling out a little bit and kind of focusing more on Ohio as a whole. And
Sure.
I had made previous mention that you are one of the guys. I mean, it is literally your job. You've got to watch the money. You got to know who's spending what, so you know who can your match the opponent. Blah blah blah. All that kind of technical, boring stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I've noticed is that right now I have heard a whopping television and radio presence from Vivek. He is all over TV. He is all over radio. I have not heard or seen a single Amy Acton spot yet, and we are now halfway through April. I think is that just a matter of, okay, she's got the primary in the bag. That's going to be done. No worries about that. And then we'll just save our focus, our money, our energy on the general. Is she holding back? What do you think of that strategy? Whereas Vivek is just out there pounding.
She is on Facebook. Because I've seen her on Facebook, and it keeps hitting my feed, and I continue to troll on her Facebook page. So yeah, it's on Facebook. Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
She's going to get outspent. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to 1. Wow. So and that's rare. It's rare in that. In statewide races recently, what's happened, and we can look at the U.S. Senate race both in 22 and 24, the Democrat candidates in both those races, Tim Ryan and Sherrod Brown, outspent the Republicans, J.D. Vance and Bernie Moreno, by about 4 or 5 to 1. We got outspent big. And it didn't matter because, thank God, we're a red state now. With Amy Acton, obviously that's a different situation. I think Vivek is smart to be doing it. The political environment is not going to be all that great for us this fall, and I think he needs to spend money to define himself before the Acton people try to define him. He's never been on a ballot here in Ohio, but then neither has she. I gotta check this out. I'm gonna figure out when was the last time we had 2 candidates running for governor that had never held public office. That will be interesting. I don't know what that answer is, but I'm gonna find that out.
I know why she's kind of waiting. I mean, a little bit. I'm surprised though because she only needs like 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So.
Well, and there. All over social media is this domestic dispute that happened with her in 2019.
Her husband, I think, issued a response today. He came out and had some sort. It came out later this afternoon. If it did, I haven't fully read it, so I'm not sure
what about it. But I don't think it's gonna.
I don't think that's going to have any.
It's not going to affect the Democrats at all.
No,
none whatsoever.
Oh no,
maybe a few independents, but
what it does is. When you have a blank slate like that, because she's never, other than COVID, she's never been out there doing anything that anybody would notice. When you're starting out kind of like a blank slate, anything like this starts filling in the blanks. Okay, and do you want this kind of information to be filling in the blanks on a normal voter's, mind? In a normal voter's mind. And that's why, I get it. She's had a tough life. People need help. I'm not, criticizing her for going for therapy. She's admitted that. I think that's great. People need to do that to be, to be able to function and be whole. The whole domestic dispute thing is problematic in that, is this a one-time thing or is this something that occurs on a regular basis? I mean, I find it troubling when the police got there. She said, well, I've been drinking and I've been taking some drugs, but I'm not sure how many I took. And, they told her, you got to get to the hospital, and she wouldn't go. But I understand why they said that. That's a little troubling when you're talking to somebody who's a physician, and she says, I'm just not sure how many I took. Fact, physicians are 5 times more likely than the general population to abuse prescription drugs.
Yes, they are.
Now, that is fact, and it makes sense because they have the wherewithal to get prescription drugs on a much easier basis than we do. Now, I'm not saying Amy Acton's in that category. I'm just saying the medical profession, they have a higher than normal rate on prescription drugs, but also just substance abuse in general. They have a higher percentage, anywhere from 10 to 15% versus the general population.
I just, Bob, looking at all of this, to put it bluntly, I just don't think people give a shit right now when it comes to that kind of stuff, simply because.
Is it that or the price of gas?
Bob,
price of gas.
I went out to get last night. We do Spaghetti Thursdays, kind of a tradition at my house, right? So I went out last night. A pound in a tube, a pound of 80/20 ground chuck was $7 for 1 pound of 80/20. That's the kind of thing that people aren't going to be going about, well, Amy Acton and her husband back. Nobody's going to care about that. They're going to care about everything that's going to. Good old James Carville, who basically, one of your, the great line that he came up with was, it's the economy, stupid. Well, we're back to it's the economy, stupid. Yeah.
It is. It's going to be. That's why the environment is not going to be that great, but the economy, it is what it is. The only thing that can come down is the price of gas. Everything else is pretty much locked in. And the problem we have here, and I don't want to be a blamer here, but that 9% increase in inflation that occurred during the Biden years was a shock to the system, okay? And unfortunately, when those things occur, prices don't go back down. They only keep going up. Now, we haven't, under President Trump, we're not getting those kinds of increases, thank God, but they're not going down either. And that's just economics. There's nothing the president can do that will bring down the cost. He brought down the cost of eggs. I remember when that was such a big thing for the Democrats, the cost of a dozen eggs. They don't talk about that anymore.
But my understanding with beef is that there's actually a supply shortage on the beef.
There very well could be. That's happened in the past.
Where's the beef?
Yeah. Well, and a lot, it has to do with, weather, they'd be able to feed them. And then you got all these environmentalists.
Climate change. It's climate change. That's what's doing it. Well, I look around and it's, what are we here about? What is the primary? 3 weeks?
May 5th.
May 5th. So 3 weeks.
May 5th. Yeah.
So we, as of the date of this recording tonight, but it will. I look at it, and I want to get the way too early kind of forecast for how things are shaping up now that the various districts now have changed. What is the likelihood of the Democrats picking up more House seats? And my other question is, Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown has been kind of quiet right now. He's another one waiting in the wings to kind of go, and he's going to get. They're probably, Bob, going to put more PAC money into the Sherrod Brown, John Husted race than any other Senate race in the country, because I think they know if they take Ohio, that flips the majority in the Senate. So you're way too early forecaster readings here on the barometer, Bob.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to be obviously a very, very tough race for us. I'll make a couple points about it, though. Number one, if you look at Sherrod Brown and you go back even to polling that occurred during his reelect in 24, he is now stuck in this 43 to 46% range. He just can't get out of there. No matter who he's running against, he can't get out of there. And that's a problem because this is a guy that's been on the ballot for 50 years. There's nothing new that we can learn about him, either good or bad, okay? Everybody knows, you know? So, and the other thing on that race is we're not going to get outspent in that race like we did the last two cycles. The senatorial committee is committing at least $80 million to John Husted for that race. So we may get outspent, but it's not going to be 4-1, 3-1, or even 2-1. I think we'll be able to stay competitive money-wise on that. And I think John Husted, to be honest, is probably a stronger candidate than Bernie Moreno because Bernie was not well-known and had never been on general election statewide ballot. So, you know, John's been a proven vote getter. He's won statewide how many times? 3, 4?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's you know, for us, it's going to be a matter of how can we withstand the environment. Now, in 2018, which was a good Democrat year, we were still able to sweep all the governor and all the executive offices statewide, even though it was a good year. Sherrod won, but he only got 55%, and he was running against Jim Renacci, who really didn't have much of a campaign. So that told me right there that Sherrod's going to have a problem. And when 24 came around, I always said this: Sherrod Brown's never run where he lost Mahoning, Trumbull, Jefferson, Belmont counties all along that river. Okay. Well, guess what? Democrats don't win those anymore. So the only way Democrats can win in Ohio statewide is they got to maximize their numbers in basically 6 counties: Lucas, Cuyahoga, Summit, Athens, Franklin, and Hamilton.
Yep.
And you know, you just got to maximize it enough that you can offset the other 82 counties. And that's a tough proposition. Now, if they can somehow break through and add in more counties, you know, maybe they can pull it off. But even those counties, those 6 counties, if you look at, let's just take 3 of them up north: Summit, Cuyahoga, and Lucas. Democrats are still winning those counties, but they're not winning them at the margins that they did 20 years ago, because there are certain elements in those counties, like Parma in Brook Park in Cuyahoga, Oregon and Maumee in Lucas, and you know, Copley and Greene and those areas, where there are suburban areas that used to be blue-collar Democrat that are now becoming blue-collar Republican. And they just don't have the margins in those counties like they used to.
Well, Bob, when I look at everything right now that's happening, my big worry, and I think yes, they're going to have to maximize their effort, but I think there's going to be a lot of just kind of disgruntled apathy within especially all the independents that broke for conservatives or Trump in 24. I think you're going to see a lot of apathy. I think there's a lot of disgruntledness, a lot of frustration where it's just like, you know, people are going to go, screw it. What's the point? You know, like, I didn't get what I voted for. I'm not even going to bother. I think that could actually be their biggest asset, is our lack of energy. And quite frankly, a lot of disgruntledness within the party, where there's a lot of infighting going on now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what happened. That is the result of the spoils of victory. When you win, that next cycle never turns out very well. And you know, I don't know what we can do about that. I personally believe we as a country have entered a period of time where we're not going to have any president have 2 consecutive terms. I think we're going to start electing, and we had a period of time back in the 1840s, 1850s, about a 20-year period, where no president served 8 years. Every 4 years, they got a different president. And I think we're starting to hit that point here. Because what's happening is they vote in Republicans, they give us everything, the Senate, the House. They don't like what we do. They kick us out. They bring in the Democrats. The Democrats screw up even more. And then they vote them out, and then we come back in, you know? I think we've hit that point where the American people are just not happy with either party, and they keep looking back and forth to try to, find out which one will satisfy them, and I don't know if they can find that. I do think, though, that while we may have problems right now in our party, I think the Democrats are the ones that are going to ultimately have the worst problem. This whole left wing of their party, which is now dominating everything in their party, is going to bring them down. And whether it's the anti-Semitism, whether it's the pro-trans stuff, whether it's the open border stuff, whether it's lets all the criminals out of jail stuff, whatever. That is, I'm sorry. They are on the wrong side of these issues. I don't want to say 80-20. Some are. Voter ID is a perfect example. That's an 80-20 that they're against. But, they're against the majority of Americans on so many of these issues that, and they can't not be on that side because they need their base to get elected. They need their base to get nominated if they're in a primary fight. So they can't disavow all of these issues that the majority of Americans don't want. And that's the problem they all have as candidates. I hope this year in Ohio we ask Sherrod Brown, do you want to go back to having that open border that Joe Biden had? Is that what you want? You obviously didn't care when he was doing it, and you were a U.S. senator. We got to ask these guys.
Well, so one thing I heard you say before, which was there's a different point in time, and there's something that's kind of happening now that it wasn't happening before. One thing that's happening now that we didn't have before is social media. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have noticed that my social media accounts have been lighting up and been getting infiltrated by the left, and I look at that as troll opportunity, but it's way more than I've seen before, ever. It's so much left. They call it left penetration or something, where they penetrate everybody in social media and then try to change hearts and minds with ideas and whiny.
Well, because they're pissed off because that's how Trump got elected. Trump won the meme wars, okay? But I'm just being honest. If you're looking at younger millennials, I'm a great grandpa of the millennials. I'm 44, but you look at the younger millennials, you look at a lot of the Gen Z, and a lot of they grew up on the internet, okay? So I will say this: Trump had a brilliant social media presence, and with what he did, I think the Democrats have learned that they've got to push back in the same manner. Because Bob, I'm telling you, you look at all the young men that ended up voting for Trump. He won I think he won under 30 men by 15 points or something. It was absurd.
Yeah, and social media has totally changed the face of politics. It just has. I think in one respect, social media has hardened the bases of each side. I think it's become much more difficult to convert somebody from the Democrat to the Republican side or vice versa. And we don't have that many people. We don't have that many people in the middle anymore that can go either way. I think the dangerous part of the social media thing in politics is what's going on with young people in TikTok. I think that TikTok puts out a very far left agenda in their algorithms that are putting these ideas in our young people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
And a classic example is socialism and how good socialism is compared to capitalism. This is dangerous. And I don't know. I think, we started the fight on that by getting it away from China. But I think it's still going on.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to change. So here's something interesting, Bob, get your take on. So we saw this last November. We got extreme left Mondami in New York, the one out in Seattle, the mayor. We thought the Virginia governor was going to be a little bit more moderate, but it turns out, nope, she's far left.
She's just as nutty as the rest of them.
Yeah, and taxing everybody to death. And so now you got celebrities like Bill Maher coming out and telling them what you're doing is stupid. You've got Rahm Emanuel, who worked for Obama, coming out and saying, no, this is not the way to do it. And now we have Eric Swalwell, however you say his last name.
Swalwell.
Yeah. Okay, that was just wrong. So, and we watched, over the last few years, him with the Chinese spy, and yet he got a promotion, so to speak. Yeah. So now it seems like the Dems, the elites, the powers that be, have thrown him under the bus, basically. And now even The View one of the hosts on The View has come out and said she knew something was wrong with him. Rosie O'Donnell is slamming him. You hurt me, just like Bill Clinton did. Do you see a movement at all of the left is trying to go back towards the center more? No,
I don't. Eric Swalwell was a victim of politics. He had to go because there were too many Democrat candidates running in California. The two Republicans were leading in their jungle primary. They had to get rid of, and he was the easy one to get rid of because of all the issues that he had, which they all knew about for years.
Yeah.
And Nancy Pelosi knew about it. Adam Schiff knew about it. His good buddy Ruben Gallego knew about it. They all knew it, but they keep it quiet because he was a good attack dog against Donald Trump. And he would go on any show that would ask him to do that. So he was useful to him. As soon as they're not useful, they get rid of them. We saw it very clearly with Joe Biden. Very clearly. It's all about power. It's all about either keeping the power or getting back the power.
Yeah.
So every move they make, the Democrats, is based on that. Has nothing to do with ideology, nothing to do with anything else.
I mean, if the Democrats ever want to win the Midwest back, run more candidates like John Fetterman. That's how you win.
Mm-hmm.
Who will be primaried.
Oh, yeah.
And
the left is going to kick him out to the curb so fast.
Yeah. If he was smart, he would become an independent, run as an independent, and kind of deal with the Republicans to not run a candidate in that race.
Oh, I think he'd win. I think he'd win.
Oh, yeah. If the Republicans don't put anybody up and he's an independent and he runs against Connor Lamb or whatever, leftist bimbo they have there, he could win.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see what happens if you don't hold to that left wing dogma. And what's so insidious about this is the whole aspect of anti-Semitism. And this started over in the Labour Party over in Britain about 10, 15 years ago. And it has seeped in over here. And that's bad.
Oh, Bob, yeah, no, well, there's people on the right that have become very anti-Semitic within the base of the party.
I didn't want to say it, but it's starting to infect our party too.
Yes.
Which has really, really bothered me.
Because I believe it was late last fall. I mean, at one point, Nick Fuentes had the most popular podcast going.
Yeah.
And he basically, he's an open Hitler supporter. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know. Bob, I know never mess with an Italian man who's got dinner plans, so I'm going to we'll wrap you up here.
Yeah.
Plus, I know
you never get it. You never get in between an Italian and food anywhere.
No,
And I'm Italian, so I can vouch for that.
Well, that and the fact I know Bob only eats one meal a day, and that's his dinner. He values his dinner.
Gotcha. Well, we'll have you back after the primary.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
I got one last thing I want to throw in there just
What?
before Bob is I was very disappointed. I have a lot of family that was hurt. I know you're a devout Catholic. That picture Trump posted and tried to explain it away. As a Christian, I found that so in poor taste that it just boggled my mind. And he's got to stop. He's got to knock that shit off, Bob. That cannot keep. He can't keep going like that.
It's things like that are going to hurt us this November. I'm sorry. And I voted for Donald Trump 3 times.
Me too.
And I vote for him 3 more times. But he's got to cut that stuff out. I mean, common sense dictates you don't take on the Pope. I don't care what the issue is. You don't take him on. You can say, you know what? I think a different way than he does, but I get where he's coming from. You know, something like that. You don't come after the Pope. Come on.
Yep.
That was that was poor.
Yeah, and what's going to happen is they may not pull the lever for the Democrats. They just won't vote at all. Which is the same
that's
thing.
what I was getting at with the apathy
Yeah.
that's coming.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, Bob, congratulations again on the new grandbaby.
Yeah, God bless you, brother.
And we will talk to you after the primary. This has been Straight Shot Politics.